More than 20 years ago, therapist Mary Piper wrote a book around the Irish proverb, "It is in the shelter of each other that people live." Let me say that again. It is in the shelter of each other that people live. And so then she went on to talk a little bit more about that and said, in the 1990s, ironies abound. See, this is when she was writing it. With more entertainment, we are more bored. In a culture focused on feelings, people grow emotionally numb. With more time-saving devices, we have less time. I agree with that for sure. With more books, we have fewer readers. With more mental health professionals, we have worse mental health. Today, we are in a more elusive crisis, a crisis of meaning, with emotional, spiritual, and social aspects to it. We hunger for values and community and something that is greater than ourselves to dedicate our life to. We wake in the night, sorry for ourselves and for our planet. And I would add in the 1990s, in the 2000s, and the 2010s. About that same time, there was a movie that came out about a man who didn't know he was lost, but he was found anyway. It was the movie Saving Private Ryan. It was a difficult movie to watch in many times, in many places in the movie. But at the core, it was about a man. Actually, it was about two men primarily. The first was the one who was lost, but he didn't know that. And that was Private Ryan. And the other, a ranger, John Miller, Captain John Miller, who was assigned to find this one man who was the last of 4 sons, the only surviving son, to bring him home. Now, there's a lot in the movie, but in the end, there's a poignant part where he stands in the cemetery with all of the white crosses, and he's going to the one that says, Captain John Miller. Of the 9 men who had been sent forth, there were 2 that survived. Captain Miller was not one of them. But in the very last moments of John Miller's life, he pulled Private Ryan close to him, and he said, for all that had been lost in terms of human life, to get him back home again, he pulled him close and he said, earn this. Earn this. Earn this sacrifice. So here we see Private John Ryan as he goes from in this cemetery, and we see his face first as a 20-year-old, and then we see it change through, I'm sure, lots of technology into this 80-year-old man. And he remembers those last words, and he turns to his wife. And she's kind of befuddled when she hears these words. He says, tell me that I've led a good life. Tell me I'm a good man. As his family is standing around him. They're seeing these questions and hearing these questions, but they're not sure where they're coming from. And perhaps we ask too. Tell me that good life or that I am leading a good life. Tell me that it has meaning and value and faithfulness. Jesus tells two stories in the gospel lesson today, too. A story about a lost sheep and another story about a lost coin. We've heard these stories all our lives. But you may not remember the setting, the context of those two parables, but it is precisely the setting. It is precisely the context that gives these two stories their special twist and their essential meaning. So the setting. These parables are addressed to particular people. The scribes and the Pharisees, the guys in charge. They're the most religious of all. They do all the right things in the church. They follow the liturgy. They even know what the word liturgy means. They thought they were the found, that they were already in there. And that others outside the synagogue, outside the church, that those were the ones that were lost. The insiders of the church were the found and the outsiders were the lost. It was that simple. That was the lens within looked through. Now, this was a problem because Jesus was attracted to the so-called outsiders. And they were drawn to him, those people who were outside the church. These scribes and Pharisees come to Jesus one day, and Jesus, knowing their attitude towards the outsiders, the lost, told them this story. There once was a shepherd. And you've heard the story. And then he continues, and he talks about the lost sheep, and there was more joy in heaven. And then Jesus tells them a second parable. There was an old woman, and she lost a precious coin, and it goes on. Then she found the coin and was so happy, and so it is with God. There's more joy in heaven over one sinner who truly repents than over a good person. Even today, these parables can remind us that our God, the God who creates, the God who claims, is the God who comes after us when we are lost. Has anyone here ever felt lost in their life? Never? Okay. All right. Confession is good. We're not going to do it right this moment, but confession is good. It is important for us to understand that sometimes we do get lost. We do get lost. But we get found too. We get found too. God is like a shepherd who searches and searches for the lost, but not just the lost, but the precious. The precious. Now, John Wesley, of whom we claim as our founder, called this whole thing prevenient grace. God's prevenient grace is with us from birth, preparing us for new life in Christ. Prevenient means comes before. Wesley did not believe that humanity was deprived, as many did at that time, but rather God places a little spark of divine grace in each of us. Think about that. A little spark in each of us. This God of activity constantly is searching and constantly wanting all whom God has created to be safe in the fold. Why would God be this way? Because we, as human beings, are also God's most valuable possessions. Above all, our God who gives us love and receives love. We are made for a relationship with God, a giving and a sharing of love, of hope, of conversation, of companionship. And so when you and I become lost, from God, it saddens God. I do believe that it saddens God, and that God searches for us, for that which is precious in our eyes, in God's own eyes. This story is about you and me when we get lost from God. The Pharisees may have been challenged by it. I think we should be challenged by it too. When we lose contact, when we get lost from God, when we lose significant contact with God and don't even realize it, just as the Pharisees did in Jesus' day. This is God's invitation for us to come back, to turn around, to come back to God, to grab God and hold on to God and talk with God and walk with God and pray with God the way we're meant to. And sometimes just to sit and rest in God, to wipe out all the thoughts that are there, that keep our minds going, and just say, God, come. I am open. I desire. And listen. The scripture of the lost sheep and the lost coin. This is good news. This is the good news of God's never-ending, never-ending, and ever-seeking love for us. When we are lost and we know it, and when we are lost and we don't. The good news. Amen and amen. Change my heart, O God. The faith we sing 2152 two times through. our love and gratitude as we offer our morning offerings and gifts.